Hello and welcome to the part 5 for the video series where we are setting up always on 3-node multi-subnet cluster on a laptop. In the previous video you have seen how to configure your existing laptop to boot from a virtual hard disk which will have Windows 10 in it, and this series will configure that machine, set it up HyperV, configure the networks, and we'll configure key configuration. Let's get going. So this is the Windows laptop we have. Let's set up some key things here. I want to change power options because this is your laptop. We are running it as a basically kind of a Hyper-V host, so we want to change some settings. I would say this is on battery, we don't care. In this case for battery, let's change it to say 30 minutes and power after say an hour, and when in power mode 30 minutes is fine, but let's change it to 5 hours because if it's running Hyper-V we don't want it to shut down unnecessary, right? So just a stability thing, good here. Now let's set up PowerShell. So we'll be running PowerShell a lot. I will pin it here. I haven't pinned some other taskbar items here, so go ahead and remove that if you want to. So before we continue with configuring the Windows 10 VHD boot machine, what we want is, at this point we want to take a backup so that this is a default vanilla Windows 10 installation you have, and you can get back to this status anytime without playing with boot entry and all that. So I'll show you. I logged back into the original laptop boot entry, and this is how it was. So I'll go back to the C drive, go to the boot VHD folder, Windows 10, and here I have taken a copy of Windows 10 VHDX file. So this copy is good. You can always use it back to revert it back. So the way it works is that, say, if any point of time I want to get rid of the changes what I made to this virtual machine, you can just delete it and replace this file with the same file with the same name, and you should be all set. Okay, having said that, let's continue configuring Hyper-V on Windows 10. Back before we continue, I just installed some of the softwares I like to use, and I have also pinned PowerShell here. Now what we'll do is start PowerShell ISE in admin mode, and as you can see, user account control is working. So we want to disable it since this is a test VM. We really don't want to spend too much time on clicking extra buttons or making it super secure or something. So let's go to file, and I'm gonna go to the C drive. So I have copied the SQL setup folder back from, which is now in D drive, right? So I've copied SQL setup back folder here, so we can manage things here easily. So I go to part 5, configure host. As you can see, we finished the first step. We already took the backup of the VHD, so we can come back to this step as many times as we want without anything we're doing going forward can be reverted at any point of time. Okay, and if you feel at any point of time that okay, at this point I want another backup, do the same thing, reboot it, go back to the other version of Windows, and then make another copy of that, give it a good name, and you should be set. So I have already renamed the computer to Windows 10 demo and rebooted it once. So let's see, if I run it again, we should get an error, and that's what it is. So I rebooted it. Let's check if the system has virtualization enabled or not. In my laptop, it is enabled, as you can see here. The last 4 lines are confirming that all 4 modes are ready. If your laptop does not have it, if you have any recent laptop, it the virtualization feature should be there. So just check your BIOS, check the motherboard settings, how to enable it. Once you are able to see this command here, then you're all set to configure HyperV. You're gonna disable the script security for PowerShell with these two commands. Then I will be installing now Telnet client, as we'll be using a lot to test connections, ports and everything. All our VMs will have that. Another thing, by default WinRM is disabled, as you can see, so we're gonna enable it as well as make it automatic, so it starts always whenever we reboot the servers. Now another part is that when we are RDPing to the other server, especially trying to make a connection, PS session connection, then you need to add those servers where you want to connect into the trusted host. So if I run that, we can see by default it's nothing. PS session won't work, so we'll be adding a star. That means this server is allowed to connect to any of the VMs or any other machines where you want to, we do a PowerShell connection, a WinRM connection, and do any activity. Next, let's go ahead and disable firewall. Simple command. Now let's disable UAC. So by this we have disabled the user account control, and now we need to reboot it. We're back after the reboot. Let's open PowerShell again. Remember, you want to open ISC window always under administrator. All these commands will work under administrator. And we are able to finish up to this. We did a reboot right here. So let's continue with that. Now the next step is with enabling all the HyperV. So this single command should do that. The command is completed. It's asking us to reboot the server. Let's go ahead and accept it. Yes. So we're back again after reboot. Let's again reopen our ISC window and open the script. So by now we have enabled HyperV. Let's make sure HyperV is installed. And HyperV Manager, you can see all the information here. If you click at the Virtual Switch Manager, that's where I see a couple of times there's a problem when you start it for the very first time. As you can see, we cannot see the default switch, which should be created immediately after HyperV is installed. So there's some sort of a bug, which is why we are getting this error message. So I am thinking about one more step. What we'll do is we'll enable the enhanced session mode, and then we'll reboot, restart. Before we restart, let's check all the network adapters we have. We want to see the network adapter for HyperV before we continue our session. So if I check the ones which are up, I do not see HyperV adapter is there, right? So we should have. At this point, let's reboot it. All right, we're back. So let's connect to PowerShell script again. Let's see if you can see the virtual network. There you go. Now you can see HyperV Ethernet adapter is available, which means it's good. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and disable this adapter with this command. Click yes to all, and that's done. Let's validate now which systems are up. Only one is up. Let's create our first network, LAN 10. Okay. Create the second one. Now we'll be creating LANet with the internet adapter we have, and we can see the internet connection is created. So let's validate what all network adapters we have now. So we can see Wi-Fi is there. There is a bridge which is created by HyperV, and these are our three networks. Still, I would like to change the names to only LAN 10, 20 and LAN net, so it will be easy for us to configure it later. I'm going to run these 3 commands which will do exactly that. And if we run the command again, we can see, now we run this again. So we can see now name is changed, but now I want to know interface ID for these. For LAN 10 and LAN 20, we want to set up different network. So in this case, we got the net IP LAN 10, I can see it's 60, LAN 20 is 70. So let's go ahead and make it 60. And for the other one, let's make it 70. So what we want for LAN 10 to have an IP address of 10.10.10.3, but let me first run this command. As you can see, currently this is the IPv6. Oh, we forgot to disable IPv6. Run the previous command. In the test environment, there's no need for IPv6. It just confused things up. Now you can see IP address is there. So we don't want this. We want 10.10. So next command is gonna change that. And now we have 10.10.10.3 IP address. Do the same thing. For the second one, we can run the command, check the ID again, 70 for LAN 20. We already changed it to 70. Let's run these 3 commands, and we have 10.20.20.20 subnet for this. Now for the LAN, let's see what's the IP we have for the LAN. LAN net is 78, so we need to change here 78. And you can see this is the IP address which is connecting to internet, which will be used by all the VMs. So the way we'll configure in future is that we'll create a VM just as a virtual router, which will basically route all the traffic coming from all the VMs and address them so that all the VMs can connect to internet. At the same time, they are, internal networking to it in between them. Okay. That's about it. So we're all good. Now I'll just restart the computer and I'll see you in the next video. If you like this series so far, please go and subscribe my channel to get notified for the next videos, and like this video as well. Thank you.